Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to get into something I think we all struggle with a little bit, and that is soft skills.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that, it's not always on the resume, but can really make or break success.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've got all these systems for measuring hard skills, very quantifiable things.
Right.
But then you have this human element that's a little bit more mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm so excited to dive into today with this book, Done Soft Skills.
Okay.
So this is a compilation of insights from 30 Chinese authors and thinkers.
Wow.
And it really digs into the power of soft skills and why they're so important.
And I think what's so intriguing about this is the premise of the book is that as we get older, let's say around 35, these soft skills become even more important for navigating, all the complexities of life and work.
Okay, I'm hooked already, but let's back up for a second.
Sure.
What exactly are we talking about when we say soft skills? Because I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about being nice or having, a good attitude.
Right.
One of the authors that we're going to talk about today, he uses this really brilliant analogy of comparing the influence of a noble person to the wind.
Okay.
And he's actually drawing this from Confucius. And it's this idea that, a noble person kind of shapes the world around them just through their presence.
Interesting.
And I think that really highlights this idea of soft skills as something that expands your impact beyond just yourself.
I love that image of the wind. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like this ripple effect. It's not just you on your own little island anymore.
Right, exactly. And it's about understanding how your individual strengths, like, what we might consider your hard skills,
Yeah.
connect to this larger network. And another author, and he kind of breaks this down even further and talks about your skills as your individual points of strength, then your resources, which are your network and your connections, and then influence is the lasting impact that you create over time.
Okay, so that's already making me think about my own network in a different way. But why are these soft skills suddenly so important? Is it just that the world's getting more complex or what's going on?
I mean, I think that's definitely part of it, but another author, she makes this really compelling argument about the changing nature of work.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, with technology automating so many tasks that used to rely on hard skills alone,
Right.
what employers really need now is someone who can navigate ambiguity, build relationships, and adapt quickly.
Which are all soft skills.
Exactly, all soft skills.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like we've reached this tipping point where just being technically proficient isn't enough.
Right, and we have data to back this up too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he cites some research that shows that creativity and social intelligence are the two skills that are least likely to be automated. So those are really the areas to invest in if you want to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, I'm convinced now, but here's where I get stuck. I know I need to work on my soft skills, but where do I even begin?
Yeah.
It feels so vague and overwhelming.
I think that's a really common feeling that a lot of us share.
Yeah.
But thankfully, our authors give us some very concrete advice.
Okay, good.
And one of them, Neem, he lays out these 3 essential ingredients for anyone who wants to make a real impact.
Right, I'm listening.
And the first one is ambition. And he's not talking about just wanting to win. He's talking about this deep-seated willingness to break free from mediocrity and take risks.
So pushing beyond that comfort zone?
Yeah, exactly.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes I find myself playing it safe when I know I should be aiming higher.
It's a common trap, especially in a world that often rewards conformity.
Right.
But, true impact requires you to challenge those instincts.
Okay, I like it.
So the second must-have, according to Dio, is joining the right circles. He talks about finding the hubs of your field.
What does that mean?
So think about those spaces where the most interesting conversations are happening and immersing yourself in that energy.
Okay, so it's not just about networking, it's about finding the right network.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then his third must-have is developing sharp vision.
Oh.
And he encourages us to resist the temptation to become numb to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, it's about actively seeking out the extraordinary, embracing challenges, even if you don't feel ready and constantly experimenting to find your unique path.
You know what? I think that's something a lot of us struggle with, that fear of not being ready.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like he's saying that discomfort is actually part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, growth rarely happens in our comfort zones.
Okay, so push yourself?
Yes. And this ties in beautifully with another author's advice.
Okay.
Wu suggests asking dumb questions.
What does that even mean?
The kind that get to the root of things, even if they make you feel a little silly.
Oh, like challenging assumptions.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually love asking those kinds of questions. Sometimes they lead to the most unexpected insights.
Right, and he believes that this is a really powerful way to cut through superficial learning and really grasp the deeper principles at play.
Okay, so it's about being curious and being willing to look a little foolish in pursuit of true understanding.
Precisely.
All right, well, this is all resonating with me so much. But I'm wondering if we can make these ideas even more concrete for our listener. Can you share any real-world examples of these soft skills in action?
Absolutely. Let's start with the author's story about teaching a frog to talk.
Teaching a frog to talk. Okay.
So imagine you're in a job interview, and they ask you, how would you approach that task? A seemingly useless skill, right?
Yeah, that would definitely throw me for a loop. I would probably start rambling about positive reinforcement and maybe some sort of tiny frog-sized microphone.
Exactly, and that's precisely the point. The question is designed to highlight the importance of discerning which skills truly matter, those that drive meaningful outcomes, rather than getting caught up in pointless tasks.
Okay, so it's a reminder to constantly be evaluating what are we spending our time and energy on? Are we genuinely creating value, or are we just teaching a frog to talk?
Precisely. And another really powerful example comes from the world of sports.
Oh, okay.
So Maradona, the legendary soccer player, he believed that his intense desire to win even more than other players is what set him apart.
So ambition in this context isn't just about wanting something. It's about that relentless drive to go above and beyond.
Yes, and that often translates into the choices that you make, the sacrifices you're willing to endure to achieve that ultimate goal.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly intangible qualities can actually lead to very tangible results.
Exactly, and to really drive home this importance of soft skills in today's world.
Okay.
Consider this observation from author 2 Ye. She argues that the winners in today's job market either possess unique information, so, being ahead of the curve,
Right.
or they are master networkers.
And that makes a lot of sense. In an age of information overload, it's the people who can kind of synthesize and connect the dots, or the people who have built those strong relationships that have a real advantage.
Right. It really underscores why cultivating these so-called soft skills is no longer optional. It's essential for thriving in this new era.
It's like recognizing the power of connections, of collaboration, of the ability to adapt and learn quickly.
Exactly.
Wow, this is eye-opening. I'm already seeing how shifting my focus toward these soft skills could make a huge difference in my own life.
I think that's the beauty of it, is recognizing the power that you already possess and learning how to wield it more effectively.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive so far.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's pause here for a moment and reflect on what we've learned.
Okay.
What does this all mean for our listener?
Well, I think it's clear that mastering these soft skills can really be a game changer, in your career, your relationships, your personal growth. They're the tools that help you navigate complexity, build meaningful connections, and ultimately create a lasting impact.
I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of tend to assume that these skills are just innate, like you're either born with them or you're not.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
The authors we're exploring today, they're all adamant that soft skills are, in fact, learnable.
Oh, yeah.
It's like working a muscle, The more you practice, the stronger you become.
Okay, that's encouraging, but it still feels kind of daunting. Where do you even start this soft skill workout?
Well, I think instead of trying to tackle everything at once, let's just break it down.
Okay.
Well, all the soft skills that we've talked about, ambition, networking, vision, curiosity. Which one resonated with you the most and why?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's this idea of joining the right circles.
Okay.
Finding those hubs of innovation, it really sparked something in me. I tend to get comfortable in my own little routines. And the thought of actively seeking out those energizing spaces feels both exciting and a little intimidating, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that growth often happens outside of our comfort zones.
Right.
And you've already hit on a key aspect here. It's not just about attending any networking event.
Right.
It's about finding those spaces where you genuinely connect with the ideas and the people.
So how do you identify those right circles? Are there any, clues or signals to look out for?
Well, I think that's where your own curiosity comes in.
Yeah.
Think about the topics that truly energize you within your field. What are the burning questions that you have? Where are those conversations happening that you'd love to be a part of? And those are your starting points.
So it's almost like following a trail of breadcrumbs leading you to these like hidden gems of knowledge and connection.
Exactly. It could be an online forum where thought leaders in your industry are sharing their insights. It could be a conference that draws the brightest minds, or even a local meetup group that fosters that spirit of collaboration.
Okay, I'm starting to get a clearer picture, but let's say you found a potential hub.
Right.
How do you actually break into that circle? I tend to be a bit introverted, so the thought of just showing up and trying to mingle can feel really overwhelming.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think that's where another soft skill comes into play. The art of asking dumb questions.
Right.
Remember Yoza's advice. It's about approaching these spaces with genuine curiosity, not trying to impress anyone with your knowledge.
So instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room, it's about being the most curious.
Precisely ask the questions that are genuinely on your mind, even if they seem simple or naive. People are often drawn to those who are eager to learn and who aren't afraid to show a bit of vulnerability.
It's like you're giving yourself permission to be a beginner again, which can be so liberating. But what about those times when you feel like you're stuck in a rut, doing work that feels meaningless, like we were talking about earlier, the whole teaching a frog to talk scenario?
Ah, yes, the frog.
Yeah.
It's a powerful metaphor for those tasks that drain our energy without contributing to anything meaningful. And it highlights the importance of another soft skill vision.
Okay, so how do you develop that sharp vision? How do you know which tasks are worth your time and energy?
Well, it starts with connecting to your own ambition, that deeper sense of purpose that drives you. What are the goals that truly inspire you? What kind of impact do you want to make in the world?
So it's about aligning your actions with your values and aspirations.
Exactly. And then it becomes a process of constantly evaluating, are your current activities moving you closer to those goals? Are you focusing on tasks that leverage your strengths and contribute to something larger than yourself?
It's like having a compass that keeps you on course, even when the path gets a little bumpy.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, developing this vision is an ongoing process.
Right.
It requires you to stay curious, to constantly be learning and evolving, and to be willing to adjust your course as needed.
This is all so insightful, but I can't help but wonder, is there a downside to focusing on soft skills? Do we risk neglecting our hard skills in the process?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that soft skills and hard skills aren't mutually exclusive.
Okay.
In fact, they often complement each other.
So it's more about finding a balance.
Precisely. Think of it like this. Your hard skills are the foundation, the technical expertise that you bring to the table. But your soft skills are what allow you to build upon that foundation, to connect with others, to communicate your ideas effectively, and to create something truly remarkable.
I like that analogy. It's like you can have the most beautiful bricks in the world,
Right.
but without the mortar to hold them together, you can't build anything lasting.
And that mortar, my friend, is the magic of soft skills.
Ooh.
It's what allows you to turn individual brilliance into collective impact.
This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
I'm already buzzing with ideas and excited to start putting some of these insights into practice.
Good.
But before we wrap up, I want to make sure that we leave our listener with some concrete takeaways. What's one key message you want them to walk away with?
I think the most important takeaway is this. You already possess the seeds of these soft skills within you. It's about recognizing their power, nurturing them, and then finding ways to express them authentically in the world.
That's beautifully said. And I think it speaks to a larger point that we've kind of touched on throughout this whole deep dive. Soft skills aren't just about professional success.
Right.
They're about becoming more fully human.
Absolutely. They're about connecting with others, building meaningful relationships, and contributing to something larger than yourself.
So as we move toward the final part of our deep dive, I want to encourage our listener to reflect on everything we've explored so far. Think about the soft skills that resonate most with you. Those areas where you feel a spark of excitement or maybe a twinge of recognition.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to start small. Even the tiniest step, like reaching out to someone you admire or asking a dumb question, can set you on a path of incredible growth and discovery.
It's funny. We spend so much time focusing on acquiring knowledge and skills.
Right.
But we often forget about the importance of actually putting them into practice.
Yeah, it's like having a toolbox full of shiny tools, but never actually using them to build anything.
Exactly. And I think that's where this deep dive has been so valuable. It's not just about understanding what these soft skills are. It's about exploring how we can actually integrate them into our lives.
Yeah, turning theory into action.
Right. And, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about my own journey with soft skills.
Okay.
And, there was a time when I was so focused on proving myself, on being the expert in the room, that I completely neglected the power of collaboration and connection.
Yeah, it's a common trap, especially in fields that really value individual achievement.
Yeah. But I've come to realize that my greatest successes have always come when I've been willing to let go of that need to be right.
Yeah.
And instead embrace a more collaborative approach.
It's recognizing that we can achieve so much more when we work together.
Yeah.
When we leverage each other's strengths and perspectives.
And that's where those soft skills, like communications, empathy, the ability to build trust, that's where they become so crucial.
Right. They're the glue that holds everything together.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to challenge our listener to think about one small step they can take this week to start flexing their soft skill muscles.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything grand or dramatic. It could be as simple as sending a thank you note to a colleague,
Oh, yeah.
actively listening during your next meeting, or even just making an effort to connect with someone new.
The key is to start somewhere, right?
Exactly. Build that momentum and make it a habit.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you stumble or you feel discouraged, but that's all part of the process.
Absolutely.
The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone.
Because the world needs your unique contributions,
Mm-hmm.
and your soft skills are the key to unlocking your full potential.
Beautifully said. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of soft skills.
Great.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep diving deep.